Feel the power.
Oh, I could feel it.
Our moment of triumph approaches. It's
Rock Talk.
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of Grok Talk, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, granitegrok.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from granitegrok.com.
Rock Talk.
All right, welcome back to Grok Talk. I am Steve McDonald here with Skip Murphy, Mike Rogers, Marmar Rogers, and Max Abramson. Full room. Thanks again to David Bozell from For America for spending some time with us talking about the Republican nominees and the need for a good conservative nominee this time around. And we're going to move forward here with the program. We have our next guest on the line. You should know him from Hot Air. His name is Jazz Shaw. Welcome to the program, sir.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, can't complain. Waiting for the thunderstorms. We're getting a little weather today, but other than that, really nice.
Yeah, good. So I know we talked about a dozen different things we could talk about this morning, but while we were chatting earlier in the program, we brought up the subject of Stephanopoulos and then, of course, a couple of the other media personalities and talking heads who have shown up on the list of donors for the Clinton Foundation, and we came up with the term Stephanoctopus. I don't know. I want to get
That's
that.
Not bad.
I want to get.
I've been going with Generous George myself.
George. Yeah, that works too. It works too. I don't know. You're going to start hashtagging the heck out of these anyway. So we have that. Of course, there's plenty of Clinton stuff to talk about. I know you mentioned Tammy Duckworth. I think is that Illinois?
Yeah, Illinois Senate.
Yeah. Okay. There's that. So much stuff to talk about. I don't even know where to start.
Obviously, we should start in Las Vegas because, last night, the big news, two things that I used to love quite a bit, boxing and politics, intersected. Of course, those are both things which are much on the decline in recent years. And, Mitt Romney fought Evander Holyfield.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Rounds. Yes, he did. Did you watch?
Just got the video. No, I didn't have access to it live, but we had the video this morning. So.
Oh, cool. So I expect that's going to go up.
Oh yeah, we'll have that up this afternoon at Hot Air. It was a freak show, I got to tell you. But let me just say, you may not have thought much of Mitt as a candidate, possibly not even as a conservative, but the guy is in shockingly good shape for his age. And he knocked Holyfield down in the first round. It was impressive.
Wow.
Knockdown or a dive.
I'm sure Holyfield helped him along a little, but I'm equally sure that Mitt was as well prepped as anybody could be.
Well, you're so suspicious. I prefer to think, Holyfield was never that good to start with, and Mitt has a 2-inch reach advantage on him. So, it was pretty nice. It was a lot of fun. They raised a lot of money for charity, and Mitt's corner threw in the towel in the second round of 3. I think he was just getting tired.
Yeah, well, I mean, he isn't a spring chicken anymore. I know Evander isn't either, but at least he'd been doing that most of his life, so that kind of gives you an advantage.
Yeah, and he's still working out. Holyfield was in pretty good shape, really.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to be contending again anytime soon. But anyway, that was just our fun story for the weekend. I thought it was nice they did a charity event. I like boxing, so, it was fun.
That is good. All right, so let's talk about Illinois for a couple minutes. Tammy Duckworth, is she, I think you wrote about this, was it yesterday, day before, maybe it was last night? There it is, right in front of me. Democrat, everybody was thinking she's the woman, and now they're having second thoughts?
Yeah, they would like to take a shot at Mark Kirk's seat, and that's not a crazy idea for the Democrats because Illinois is touch and go for the GOP in the best of years. In a presidential year, the Democrats tend to get pretty high turnout because Chicago just shows up, in massive numbers or, living and dead. And they get tons of Democrats showing up to vote. So that's a rough race to start with. And Kirk's favorability rating is positive at this point, but it's only a plurality. About more than half or almost half the people don't express an opinion about him. So that's a danger sign. He's more popular than unpopular, but he just hasn't really staked out a name for himself. He doesn't have one of those soaring popularity numbers, so he could be in trouble. They decided immediately on Duckworth because she's got the whole backstory, Iraq veteran, Purple Heart, wounded in battle, very popular in the party, and that looked like a no-brainer until the Chicago inside political team stepped up and they said, we really ought to have somebody who's black. Which was just, and they made no bones about it. That was exactly the reason they gave. And they said, well, no, we need to come up with a black candidate. So they came up with this woman, I'm drawing a blank, her name's Zopp, I think, her last name.
Yeah, Andrea Zopp. Andrea.
Andrea Zopp, yeah. And the Chicago Tribune went to interview her, and they're like, well, why do you think you're the qualified person? And she turned right around and said, well, I'm a black woman, so I bring the right perspective to this race and the representation that we need. It was like no talk of qualifications or anything. It was just, well, I'm the right candidate. So I'm getting out the popcorn at this point because Duckworth had ran a pretty nasty primary for her House seat last time. And apparently they've already started digging up stuff on this woman and starting to feed that to the press through the back door. So I don't know if Kirk will hold on to the seat, but a dirty primary never helps anybody. And if nothing else, like I said, get out the popcorn because it could be an interesting, Democrat-on-Democrat hot, dirty action going on out in Illinois.
And who better to reap the full rewards of the Democrat identity politics segmentation setting us all against each other and in a sense of tribalism we haven't seen for centuries is the Democrats in Illinois. You just got to love it.
And particularly with the Chicago overtones, which just adds more spice to it because the fight's going to be fought largely in Chicago. I mean, Kirk's support is, almost entirely in the southern part of the state and the more rural areas. But much like New York, the difference between upstate and New York City, you get swamped by the city if the Democrats go and turn out, bring out your dead and all that. It's hard to beat those numbers.
But and even though I'm making fun of the identity politics, it really has become, I think, a huge blight on politics where the Democrats have embraced it because when you segment people, you can set them against each other. But do you think it's very dangerous that we see the slow movement of the Republicans to adopt the same kind of outlook, at which point it's like, you can't outgift the Democrats, even if the Republicans want to do that? Are we going to just put ourselves as permanent losers as the parties at the national level start to adopt the same kind of deal?
Well, in certain areas, I think there is a move towards more populist sentiment and more populist legislative proposals. It's called populist for a reason. People like free stuff, I'm sorry to say. No matter what the price tag is for that, no matter if there's an $18 trillion deficit and, just paying the interest on that is going to start to cripple us before too long if it keeps going up. But, somebody who's sitting at home and wants their free phone or whatever it is that they're going to be getting this month with whatever proposal is on the table and being told, no, you won't have to pay for it, we'll just, put it on the credit card. I'm sorry to say, we've had a couple generations of people who think that sounds like a great deal.
Very much so. And you mentioned Obama phone, and it's interesting. Somebody put up an evolution graph of the phones for the last 30 years, shrink, and then all of a sudden they got bigger, and the comment underneath was all the better for selfies. So are Obama phones bigger and better for better selfies too?
I have not actually seen an Obama phone, so I can't comment on that. I do know, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and this isn't really a political discussion, but I don't understand. I was pretty happy when phones got small, and I have a Droid myself that I can fit in a front shirt pocket very easily. But now I see these new iPhones coming out, and they're getting to be the size of small tablets. And it's like, well, if you're going to carry that around and it doesn't fit anywhere except in your briefcase, why don't you just bring your laptop? It doesn't make any sense.
I bought a phablet, which I bought a Kindle Fire, which has a 6-inch screen, and it was perfect. It was the perfect size for sitting there in the State House, reading bills, reading the House calendar, receiving emails, communicating with other reps. And the problem is just slightly too big for this front pocket. However, It just happened to fit the inside pocket, so it ended up being the perfect size. And the problem is I dropped it, and the screen cracked.
That's why
it was only an 18-inch drop. I don't recommend them. It's not that they aren't durable enough. It's that they're just too damn heavy. I think
LG G3 fits in your front pocket, and it's pretty damn big, as you can see. So anyway,
well, but the Kindle Fire is only $99.
That's true, and that was,
what, $600?
That was a 2-year plan with all kinds of nonsense attached. Anyway, we're digressing just a little bit.
So $18 trillion in debt. USA Today 2 years ago ran a story on the front page. It wasn't just the $18 trillion in debt. It was another $26 trillion in unfunded entitlement obligations, another $5 or $6 trillion in unfunded state and local pension obligations. New Hampshire has it's estimated between $4 and $14 billion unfunded pension liability. So you add it all up, it was something like $62 trillion, or about $200,000 per person.
Yeah, and in fact, when Glenn Beck was running the numbers on Fox a few years back, he had already estimated that the total unfunded liabilities of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, etc., were heading north of $100 trillion at that point if you added all of the pieces together. And I'm sure it's much, much worse. And the thing is, these are all commitments to give now, pay later in terms of contracts, especially union labor contracts. And even the unionistas don't realize they can't possibly get what they've been promised. They'd be better off negotiating something that's affordable.
Yeah. So, Jazz, how are you going to solve that whole problem in 30 seconds?
Well, I guess burning the cities down isn't practical.
Not even the Democrat cities?
Well, all the big cities really are Democrat cities. At least in my part of the country and all along the Northeast and the Midwest and all that. But I have been writing quite a bit lately. When you mention unions, and we're talking about Illinois, that's a perfect example. Is that they are struggling, both the entire state and at a lower level, the city of Chicago, with this massive unfunded pension scheme for the unions. And the unions were so successful over the decades there that not only did they get these sweetheart deals one after another by being the people who financed all the elections and essentially owning all the Democrats who got elected, they were more successful than the other states because they got a constitutional amendment passed a couple of decades ago and wrote it into the Constitution saying that, in pretty much in so many words, that a pension was a God-given right, and once a pension had been assigned, it shall never be removed or diminished. And that's in the state, and when they just arranged a deal to try to cut down some of the benefits and whatnot to try to get at least close to where they might be able to keep their head above water paying all this off. And they were immediately challenged in court by the unions, and the state Supreme Court came down in no time at all and said, nope, it's in the Constitution, you can't do that. Should have planned ahead. Sorry.
So now they look at the Constitution.
Now they look at the Constitution.
But this is a state constitution that was modified specifically to lock in the benefits that they knew would eventually be challenged.
Exactly, and the unions were just so ingenious. I mean, it sounds disgusting to any sort of fiscal conservative, but you almost have to give a tip of your hat to the lengths that they went to. They set up a plan in Chicago where there was a rule that was in place only briefly, saying that, and it was passed as like some rider on something else, saying that you would qualify for a lifetime teacher's pension if you served as a teacher at all, and that meant as little as 1 day. Wow. And they literally had a group of union bosses who got themselves sent out as substitute teachers for 1 day, literally 1 day, and then shortly after that moved on to their retirement and filed a claim, and they had, on top of their normal union pension and other things, they got this teacher's pension separate and above for the rest of their life. The first guy that did it got taken to court, and the judge was just so offended by this, he said, no, this is ridiculous, we're going to strike this down, you're not going to get this pension. His union lawyers took them to court, and they pointed at that constitutional clause, and he won. And he taught 1 day as a substitute teacher, and he now has a pension for the rest of, it's not bad either, it's like $39,000 a year on top of his other pensions. for the rest of his life for teaching one day.
Wow. All right, we're going to take a short break, Jess. Stay there. We will be right back.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.